Okay, so welcome to the weekly daily strategy session. I'm Ryan. We have Karen on today, Karen Abram, who is a member of the team here at Inside Real Estate. Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Hi. And what Karen's going to do today, Karen is actually the founder of CMA, right?
Yep.
Which you guys can now find if you go into KV Core, and I'm just going to search Dash. You can see it's a new option. Now, Karen, this is available to people whose MLS is tied up to CMA, right?
Correct. And we have just about 75% US coverage right now. So chances are we are live with your MLS. And if not, we will reach about 95% by January.
Cool. And how about Canada? In the works?
Canada, we'll be ready to go on TREB by end of next week and working through the rest.
Cool. So if you don't see this yet in your marketplace, don't sweat it. It's coming. But Karen was nice enough to say she'd come on here. I wanted to get this kind of recorded. Karen, I not only, in the process of doing this, I was hoping that you could, of course, do a demo. But along the way, I might throw you off a little with some questions about tactically how we use CMA. I know that you built this tool out of necessity, right? In your own practice. So do you want to talk a little bit about that real quick, like the genesis?
Sure. So my background is in advertising, actually, in building analytical models to help companies figure out how much they should spend in their advertising efforts. Knowing that if I spend $400,000 to promote a movie that's coming out on demand, how much will that yield and how much would I get if I increase that or decrease that? So as time kind of went on and I now also became a mother, I started to think about a different career, started to think about, what other industry would my strengths carry over into? And my husband, who's a home loan officer, pointed out that I've always had an ability of helping people feel comfortable with big data. And he pointed out, everyone's overwhelmed in real estate. Why don't you try that? So I did. I thought it was interesting. I got my license on the side, wanted to get a sense of how it was going to be, and quickly saw that it was overwhelming because you have a ton of information, but it's not necessarily structured to give you clear insight, to clearly see what's too aggressive or too conservative of a price. And there's so much that you have to remember from page to page to page. So I started to create a model to go on my own presentations with, and it worked well for me as an agent. I used it to sell my own home where I saw firsthand some of the blind spots from some of the other reports that were no longer blind spots to me because I had that at the forefront, which I'll show you as we go through the demo. And it was really that moment that I decided to create this Excel PowerPoint product into a real product. And actually, the funny thing is, I'm now in the process of listing my own home and working with an agent. And we were talking about price. And of course, as that seller, I think I'm slightly unrealistic on price myself.
Yep.
And he used the report against me to justify why we should probably list a tad lower than I was hoping.
So it probably goes without saying, but the reason why you would use a CMA, there are other products like it out there, is not only to close the listing appointment, but this is a pricing tool too, right? So
yeah,
it'll save you some stress and probably get the property sold faster if you price it right. It's kind of the gist of it.
Well, and your clients are going to bring up Zillow. Your clients are going to bring up that their neighbor thinks you should sell for this, or their Aunt Linda thinks you should sell for this, or they're going to bring up that they have a fantastic pool or a wonderful view, and they want to know what values those add. They're going to point out the home down the street that's asking for so much more, not realizing that the home down the street is 50% larger. So when you want to tie in all those perspectives in a way that's digestible, just showing them page after page, it's hard to keep track. And in that process, the client becomes overwhelmed. So you're able to showcase yourself as a true expert when you have it all laid out, clearly organized. The report speaks for your own strengths of saying, I'm a professional, I'm organized, and I'm going to be approachable and make this process easy for you. So the report helps you demonstrate why you use an agent.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm kind of scrolling through on the screen here. I'm going to give you the screen so you can kind of give us a walkthrough. But just so everybody has some context, this is kind of what we're talking about, right? A really kind of, I would compare it to RPR, but I think it does way more than RPR, right? But it's that kind of a evaluation report.
I mean, I would agree.
Just so everybody has context on what we're talking about, it's a CMA tool. I'm seeing lots of different ways this might be used. So do you want me to give you the screen now, maybe? And
Sure.
yeah. So what do? I pause my
So we
share.
got, I will take the share screen.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you got to stop share.
Oh, I see. I paused it. Yeah.
All right. You see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the process starts, this is a CMA tool, as you said. So the process starts with what is the property that you're trying to price, whether this is for a buyer who is in a multiple counter situation, they're trying to better understand just what that property is worth, or for a seller trying to understand where top dollar value is. So as you type that in, for example, as you type it in, we're going to try to find it. There it is. Click next. Now we're going to look for comparables, and this is pretty unique to us, this process of looking for comparables. In other tools, you do need to leave the tool, go to the MLS, enter all your criteria into your MLS, find those MLS IDs, copy each, and bring them back into your tool. It's quite a dance, and an awkward dance that you would not necessarily do in front of someone. We wanted to be able to give the agent the opportunity to say to their client, look, this is a huge decision for you, and it's overwhelming. I'm going to walk you through the whole process here. So pricing starts with looking at similar properties, and you can say this to your client and you can have them do it with you. This is the property we're pricing. It's a single family home, so we're going to pull comps that are single family. It's a 4-bed home, so we're going to pull comps that are 4-bed. All of these are adjustable, change it as you wish. Now what's happening on the right side here on this map is we're going to show you all the matches. So there are no surprises when you get to your report. Rather, you know right away that there are 3 active matches noted by the full color green, 5 pending matches, 9 closed matches, and 72 other matches in the area that just missed the mark. Notice this one right here. It's right next to the subject property. When I click on it, I see that it did not make the cut because it's over the bed count. And if I want to manually add it, I can. You would simply click on any of these and click add to comps.
So is this something you can do with the seller? You mentioned that you might have like an iPad or your laptop out and you would do it with them.
Yes, this works beautifully on an iPad or a phone. It is mobile. It's scaled for mobile, so that full experience you can do.
Cool. But you could also build a report at your office and then show them the report. So you have both options.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so I'll show you how you can do that and bring it up in front of them as well. So with your comparables selected, knowing that you have 31, let's get to the report. I click Build CMA. So then I can explain to the client that we're going to take all of these 31 properties. We're going to remind you who we're pricing this for, the date, what is a comparable market analysis. There's the 31. And here at a glance, very objectively, is what does it mean to be a comparable property? One thing I really like about Dash CMA is that sometimes I felt that other reports made me as an agent have to play the role of appraiser. And it gets very difficult to then explain in how much value certain things have. It's a very subjective conversation. Or the home down the street, what is a comparable? Just saying it's a similar property, this is objective. Now, the showstopper of Dash CMA is our perspective scale. So on the perspective scale, we're going to organize information here to clearly show where some of those outliers are and where you have a lot of support. So you can choose information from these 5 buckets here, but as you can see, we already got you set up with a sprinkling of info, starting with the most recent information at the top, P, A, and C, red, green, and orange, pending active close, and then some trends and estimates. But we can build this with your client. You can build this to whatever you want by clicking in here. And I'll give you an example. Let's say we're looking at a property here. And let's take this property on Greystone, for example. You can browse the photos, make it larger if you'd like, the description information. Now, there are 31 total results. I would bet my right foot that after you looked at each of these, even though they're all comparables in terms of being the same bed count, similar in size, neighborhood, year, etc., I would bet my right foot there's going to be one in here or a few that after you look at it, you decide it's not a comparable.
Yeah.
Delete it. No problem. Other tools, you can do that as well. Differences. I would bet my other foot that if I'm looking through these, there's going to be a few that are perfect. There's going to be a couple that really stand out. Maybe your client has an updated kitchen and this property here has a very similar updated kitchen. Maybe this property sits on a cul-de-sac or backs up to a busy street. Whatever makes the property you're pricing unique, you can find those properties that also align with that uniqueness and feature them, which you cannot necessarily do in other tools. When you feature them, we'll make sure that this property pops in the report. So when you feature it, gray stone will now appear right here on the scale so that it's going to pop. It's going to pop out of the total. Trends, we show highest, average, median, lowest, just like everyone else. But we also point out the price of the nearest and the most recent closed, pending, active property, which I think is very important, especially if there's a home next door. I want to know that one specifically. So as you select them, they populate. So as you can see, we're starting to tell a really rich story. So far, my story has 2 bubbles.
Well,
Now,
it's a data backed story, which I think
yes.
is a differentiator. Most agents can't do this. Or
Well,
it's not a data discussion, really.
Well, and I think to the agent's credit, you can. It's just the tools don't allow you to showcase it and illustrate it. You have to run so many different reports, which actually is a great point. Features. Your client says, I have a pool. Others in this area don't. Or my favorite, I have a view. Others in this area don't. How much more do I get for my view? And now you find yourself in the position of having to appraise a view. So in other tools, you can answer that question by simply saying, sure, let me get back to you. And then you would go and you would run 2 CMAs, one with all your comparables with a view, another with all the comparables without a view. You're left with 2 60+ page reports that you now have to piece together and make sense of. That's not ideal. This case, I click features. I see that there are 14 properties with a view and 2 without. I see there's also 6 without a pool and 10 with a pool. I can click yes and no.
It grabs the features that are selected in the MLS automatically.
Yeah, it grabs basically of those, back to features here, of the 16 total on market properties, and on market defined as active and pending. Basically, if the clock's still ticking, we count it as on market. If the clock stopped ticking, we count it as off market. So you can also compare closed properties. So there's 15 closed properties, 6 of them have a pool, 9 of them don't. Easily compare them.
Gotcha.
So now you can say to that client, you know, in this area, with a pool, without a pool, is not really commanding too much of a difference. And they might say, well, but maybe it's something else with the property. Click on it. When you click on it, you can now see each of them here. So you can review them and take them out if you wish. And these are all the ones that have a pool.
So the exterior features, is it always locked in at property using pool, or is that something that's automatically snipped out?
You can, on exterior right now, we cover pool, view, bathrooms, levels, maintenance fees. But next Tuesday, we will be releasing an additional 15 features. For example, if you want to compare newly built versus not newly built, 55+ community, not 55+ community. You want a little more detail about this view? You want to know if waterfront? You can compare with waterfront versus without waterfront. Personally, I would spend a ton of time in this area building so many different reports. And you mentioned RPR earlier. You would have to subjectively add, which I don't know what number to use. I'm not an appraiser. So this way I can see what the market is demanding and commanding. And as you know, the saying goes, a property is only worth what a buyer will pay. And this is showing what they're willing to pay for those features right now.
Awesome.
So estimates, everyone's favorite conversation, Zillow. Zillow is currently the number 24th most trafficked website in the US, which means that someone's got to check it. In fact, people currently are checking Zillow more than they're checking Twitter. So in that case, knowing that they're going to check it, bring it into the conversation in a way that addresses it and dismisses it. So when you address Zillow, you're able to say, I looked at Zillow as well, but I looked at it in combination with 20 other perspectives. I would never base my analysis solely on Zillow, but of course I would check it with everything else. And for that matter, any public estimate, whether it's appraisal.com, if it's Redfin, if it's realtor.com, if it's your neighbor, if it's Aunt Linda, who says that you would be a fool to sell for anything less than 1.3 million. You can add Aunt Linda, Uncle Bob, anyone you want here, as many as you want. As you add that, there she is on an island, and you're able to show that in a respectful way to say, I know your Aunt Linda's opinion is really important to you, so I included it in our conversation.
You could put your competitors in there too.
You could put your competitors. You can say, another agent told me that I could list for this. Or what I love is when you're meeting with a husband and wife and both have very different opinions on how you should price. You can say, let's plug them both in so that we can look at it in one picture. Which brings me to Outliers. This is my absolute favorite part of CMA. And the reason is, whenever I include it, I instantly stand out into my clients against other agents. And the reason being is, by definition, a comparable market analysis only looks at comparables. They're supposed to. They're not doing anything wrong. They're looking at only these properties that match that criteria. They're looking only at the properties that you added. What about the properties in the area that are too large or too small to be considered comparables? What about the home next door with the same bed count that's 25 to 50% larger or 75 to 100% larger? Clients are not walking in with measuring tapes. So this way you're able to help address that. So I click that. I can see do the same for smaller. If it's grayed out, that's helpful as well. That lets you know there are no properties that match that. Or in the case of bedrooms, for that client who says, I'm interested in buying this property as a 4-bed and converting the den to a 5th bedroom. I'm not going to change the square footage. How much more would I get for this property with the same square footage with a higher bed count?
I love this. One of my favorite hacks is to show people who want a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom houses, because there's so many times there's that 3rd bedroom hidden there in the configuration. It's not in the MLS, which brings to mind to me that this is also potentially a pricing tool for buyers who are about to make an offer.
Absolutely. So, and they're wondering too, at some point when you're overbidding, you might want to, if you knew that if you were going to overbid and that would actually open you into other properties with more square footage, you might want to consider that. So this way you can see that right here on the scale, which also you can help for your Aunt Linda conversation to say, by the way, if we do price at 1.3, we're going to be pretty close to properties in this area with the same bed count that are about up to 50% larger. And for that investor who wanted to add that other bedroom, you can help explain to them, this extra bedroom in this neighborhood is really not actually adding too much value. So you can show this entire thing between price and price per square foot very easily so that you again can say to your client, look, I'm happy to talk to you in either price or price per square foot. Where's your comfort? You're making it easy and you're able to adapt very quickly and easily to them to make it all approachable and digestible. And I hope you can see in this visual, I can, where the outliers are and where you have a lot of support.
That price per square foot's really useful in urban too, where you've got condos. There's not much distinction, maybe even in one complex. That's awesome. Yep.
Yeah. So the next question would logically be, I see the bubble. Where do I price in the bubble? So to help you narrow in on where to price is the second part of a 2-part tool. We tried to pack a ton of information in here. In fact, we've packed at this point over 40 different reports that you would normally have to pull for the same level of information in one search, but we tried to keep it very simple to use. So At a glance, this shows you information. Clicking into any of these reveals another visual. For example, competition. Easy, simply put, there are 6 in the area. Click on it. We'll go a step further. We'll show you where they are, but we'll also, with their coloring, highlight just how fresh or stale they are so that you know, are you about to price a property in a very fresh neighborhood or a very stale neighborhood? Would that change how you price? Of course you would. So you need to be able to tell that story to your client. You can click on any of these, dive deeper, because we do not expect you to have the memory of a magician here. You can, or a wizard. You can click in and see those properties.
So you can almost predict, I mean, it's substitution effect. You're like, okay, this one's probably going to sell before us at this price. Yeah, it's really cool. Like you're almost, you can tell the story to the seller and what they can expect. I think it's, and they'll be watching those other listings then to know that the pressure's less on you because you've given them the data and they can watch the market basically.
You know, that's actually a great transition to my other favorite one, which is shelf life. Because in terms of, you can set expectations, like you said, you can help them understand what's about to happen. Anyone who's listing a home is antsy. They're nervous. They're wondering what the clock looks like. They're usually in some sort of contingent or concurrent situation, and everything is very time sensitive. So they're going to ask you, how long can I expect to sit on the market? And you don't have a crystal ball. And rather than just saying, well, we're going to try to get this as fast as we can. Fast is subjective. What does that mean? So you can let them know right now, the average days on market for active pending comparables is 81 days. Click on that. Now you can show them there are 16 on market properties averaging 81 days on market. Better yet, you can look at every other month. So if we were pricing this property in, let's say September, we would have found that there were 12 properties on the market averaging 69 days on market. Then we would have told our client that, listen, we would have said, should take around 69 days. Chances are they're going to go home, they're going to mark their calendar, and on day 70, they're going to call you and they're going to say, what happened? We don't have an offer. Here we are, day 70. You said 69 days. And you can help illustrate that that was the case for September, but now we're in October and we're up to 81. And you can help them see that in a way that takes that pressure off you, especially if it's more of a market dynamic. Armed with this info, you come back to your scale and you confidently enter your price as either a price or a range. So if I'm going to enter, for example, 1-2 for this home, my price, my name, my face will prominently display on the scale with everything around me to support and defend that price point and explain why I came up with that.
Really cool. So you can also use that back to the seasonality of the days on market. If somebody's saying, hey, I want to wait 4 months before I list, you can either convince them to do it now, or in some cases you can be a better counselor and recommend that they wait. Yeah, really cool.
Also, for that person who says, let's just test it out. Let's test out this price versus this one. Selling page shows all the closed properties. So you can help them see that, listen, once the clock starts, we're in a battle with the clock. And the longer the home sits on the market, the less likely we are to get top dollar value for this home. So we want to price it right out the gate. And we don't want to find ourselves in this situation over here.
Yeah.
So how would you share this with your client? Because to your point before, you might not always want to walk through with them with this in front of them from start to finish. You might just want to share it, in which case save and share right here. You say, who is this for? If I say this is for Ryan Hartman, I can save it and access it later. I can create a PDF. I can open it, share an interactive link. When you share an interactive link with your client, you say, who's this for? What's the email you're going to send it to? I'll send it to myself here. You can send to as many emails as you want. Each link has its own tracking built in. So when we go a bit beyond the tracking of opens and time spent, I'll show you an example of one, to record engagements. So in here, this is that report that's saving that we started 18 minutes ago. So we did quite a bit in 18 minutes. So here's one, for example, that shows, if I click here, I can see that this has been viewed 23 times. I can click view sessions and I can see each of them and click view sessions to see anything that they have done.
All right, I'm getting a little hot and bothered. All right, because
So here, if I can
well,
see right here, they looked at selling pace. They
yeah,
looked at competition. If I'm an agent, I'm going to use that. I'm going to call them and say, hey, wanted to check in with you. Do you have any questions on what I sent? By the way, did selling pace happen to catch your eye? Did you happen to notice that at all?
is the system yet? And I expect maybe it's not, but are there email alerts going out about this stuff or a daily report yet?
Yeah, so we're definitely,
Think about it.
you can rebuild this. In fact, want to notice there's a lot of reports built for this address. There's a lot built for this one. And the reason being is typically when you meet with a client, they may not be ready in that moment to say, great, put it on the market today. You might be putting it on the market a few days later, and you want to rerun the report to see if anything's changed, or they want an update a week later. In this case, click rebuild. When you click rebuild,
okay,
we'll remember everything that you did the last time. Click build CMA. And this is the cool part, at least in my opinion. I'll show you here. We remember, Dash CMA is full memory. We remember all the properties that you featured, all the selections that you made, everything that you loved about the property, and we port that over. And we note what has been new since the last time you built that report. Actually, I'm going to rebuild the one that we just did.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking, what I was asking was, can I get a report daily of all my reports that are being opened? You know, which of the reports that I have out there are being...
You get an automatic email the second they close it with all the engagements, which is what you want. You want to know in that minute. My memory is only as good as the last 2 minutes. So the second I know someone just closed the report, you call them at that moment.
Got it. Well, that's great. You know, recently, Karen, I did a number of webinars that showed a process on Facebook. I know Ernest tested out, he's watching, where we're generating leads off Facebook ads, and I was sending manually RPR reports to those leads, and a few have replied already. This is killer because I would create these, and the fact that I know that it's being opened is amazing. And then I don't know if you've ever done this, but from a farming, you know, say you're sending postcards or you're doing ads, in theory, if there's a link for the neighborhood, you could generate a generic link for the neighborhood, couldn't you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you our PDF because I would use the PDF from a farming tool, actually. Okay. In fact, for open houses, I use this as well for anyone writing an offer. So our PDF is on average 10 to 20 pages. This one is 17 pages. And you let me know at the end, did I forget anything? That would be in your normal 60+ page report. So you choose the logos. You can choose up to 2 logos. You choose a color. It is embedded throughout the report, so it really stands out as yours. Your subject, all that information, what it means to be a comparable is all listed here. Then your pricing scale prints in both price and price per square foot. If I know someone's writing an offer, I'll print those 2 pages front back. That way they can see this is fairly priced. And when someone feels psychologically that something's priced fair, it creates a sense of urgency. Yeah. So when you know something is when you think that's a good price, instantly you think it's going to go fast. So when you're able to show that to someone that, look, I looked at this from every which way, be cautious about writing me an offer over here. So you can see that. Then we print every graph here. Notice the colors are embedded throughout. It's not just simply limited to your header. So there's that.
This will skin to your office, basically.
Absolutely. Each of those graphs print. Now we show you all the actives so that you can show that you did your homework, that you looked at literally every property in this neighborhood that matches. But you can also show as that agent that you aren't naive enough to think that every single active, just because it's the similar bed count and square footage and in the neighborhood, are the same. You can show which ones you featured. that really did stand out. And then only for those starred properties, it's a lot of properties, we'll show the first 9 photos.
Cool.
And only for those. Rather, we're not going to show you a picture of the guest bathroom for every single one of these.
That's what RPR seems to do. It just
That's
gives
what everyone
everything.
seems to do. Because you can't, in the other tools, there's no way to feature. The only way to get rid of the other properties is to delete them. And I don't want to delete them. I want them to know when they say, what about the home on Indian Hill? Yep, I looked at it, but I didn't think it is part of my analysis, but it didn't have the same kitchen as yours that these two did.
Yeah. And that's where you differentiate yourself. You're showing that you actually do know the market.
Yeah. And not just the market, their home. You're showing them that their home is truly unique, and every person wants to feel that their home is unique, and they should, because it is. You're able to help show that and show that there are certain features, though, that really make it stand out from the rest. And where are the commonalities?
Perfect.
So that, in a nutshell, is all the main features of Dash CMA today. We do have some really exciting updates coming out next Tuesday. In terms of, we're adding significantly more features that you can play around with between right now with the pool we show here. You'll be able to do quite a few more. And we're updating to the search process so that you can manually enter that MLS ID, just in case there are properties that you do know that you want to make sure are included.
Cool. So I could, and there's a link for each CMA. So I guess my question before was, if I wanted to, I could have somebody opt in to a report link, but have multiple people opt in to see that link. If I'm doing lead generation.
Definitely, you can.
Okay.
So when you send, if you do not create, if you don't create a unique link and you use that same link, you won't be able to track by who sees it. Right. Rather, it will be anyone who's seen that one, or you can make them unique.
So what I want to do is I want to send 1,000 postcards, tell people to go see all the activity in their neighborhood, and then be able to track that postcard campaign based on the link clicks.
Yep, you can. Yep. You would create individual ones for each. Yep. I caution to say that if you just create one and send it out, here's what happened when we actually launched the interactive link. We had a Inman review, and that went up, talked about the interactive link, and I didn't know exactly. About a few weeks later, that was a few weeks ago, and then we launched it. We've been running it, and there was one day where I was sitting and suddenly I kept getting emails that said, someone opened your report. Someone's opened the report, over and over. And I thought, this is strange. It's all for the same address. And so I talked with our, the development team and said, I think this might be a bug. And in the span of that conversation, there were a few hundred more emails. Yeah. And so I was thinking, I don't quite know what's happening. And we were looking at this and I said, let me take a break for a moment. And I read Inman just to kind of clear my head for a minute, and saw that they had just published a review of the interactive link, and they included a link.
Okay.
So everyone around the country was clicking the same one.
So if you run your link, you're gonna get a lot of emails if it works really well. But
yes,
least of your worries.
Here's how I would also use this as a lead gen side. So because when you rebuild a report, we do not delete over the last one. So in other tools, when you rebuild your report, you no longer have your past report. So this way you can see that's not the case. I can look at the report that I built 2 weeks ago and compare it to the one that I built 22 hours ago. I can send my client to sit, that client that's on the fence, that has, been concerned whether or not this is the right time. I can let them know, here's what we looked at 2 weeks ago. I can send them that PDF. And then I can say, I pulled the exact same information just by clicking rebuild, and show them that PDF side by side and say, you were nervous to list until you could get at least 800,000. We can get that today if we list now.
Yeah.
And really so you can help them see that.
Great, Karen. Thank you. So just some business stuff it's $30 a month, right?
In the marketplace, yes.
And then I think there were some discussions. Right now, there's a 12-month term on it. I think there's some discussions about some flexibility there, but I don't know if that's been resolved. I don't know if you have any details on that.
It has not.
Okay. So you'll see a 12-month term for now. Bob's asking if there's a free trial. I think there's also some discussion about that, but I don't have any clear answers on that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it, $30 for if you're actually doing a good number of listing appointments, or you're doing seller-based lead gen and you're sending these reports the way I've been talking about the last few weeks. I don't know that 30 hurts very much. You know, it feels pretty good to me, but I don't know.
As someone who was using this while also holding a full-time job and doing real estate on the side and trying to get a sense of this is something I wanted to do, 2 young kids, it takes a process of spending over 2 hours of pulling reports together and then having to kind of piece them together. And then the worst thing is when your client then says, can you update this in a week? And you think, I have to do that all again. And but more importantly, it helps, especially you shine as the professional you are. I think the problem in the industry sometimes as agents are, we know all the information. We know that where the price should be. We have all of the info, but we're not the decision makers. It's not our home to sell. So we have to make that information easily absorbable to the client so that they can make that decision comfortably, and they'll feel comfortable with you when you make that easy for them.
Great. Yeah. And again, I'll remind everybody, this is a buyer's agent's tool too.
Yeah, absolutely. I used it for a buyer when I didn't even realize when I created this, it was for a buyer. It was for a buyer who said, for example, in this situation here, they said, I'd like to write an offer on this property that's listed at 1.2. Let's go in at 900,000. And I was trying to help them understand, no, that's not going to do it. And they were looking at, there's a property over here though. There's one property that did it. And I needed to help them understand that their price was far too aggressive. And all they were doing with that 60-page report is finding that they were flipping through it, finding the one property that did it, plucking it out and saying, they did it, why can't you?
Yeah.
And I had a hard time of helping them understand that's an exception. In this view, those exceptions are clear.
Yeah. You want to be, you want to kind of be in the middle there. Well, you want to do it based on a substitution effect and how quick your seller needs to sell. But yeah, you want to be sort of in the middle there to price at market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions, anybody? As I said, Karen, not huge attendance today. We're in a little flux with the attendance on these, but we will have the replay live in the Facebook group, and it'll be evergreen at insiderealestate.com/webinars so for you guys to rewatch. Definitely, if you're watching this, share this with your team, with your broker. I think, Karen, are some brokerages getting this en masse?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not seeing this in the marketplace, it could be that too, right? It could be that it's not,
you're not seeing in the marketplace, it's likely that you already have it. Okay. So definitely reach out if it's something you're not seeing so that we can help make sure that you have credentials.
But brokers can buy this for the whole office if they want.
Absolutely.
That's
and at that point too, once you buy it, you can add additional pages for your office to make sure that those print with it and make sure that the branding is set. We make it very easy so that your agents can log in, and the color, the logos, everything's all set up for them upon login. Perfect.
Okay, thanks, Karen. We'll get the replay live, and we'll be talking a lot more about Dash, I think, in the coming days. I want to show some of the stuff I do with it, with the direct mail farming and the online kind of seller lead gen. I'm planning to use this coming up soon. So
awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. See you Tuesday at 12 p.m. We'll be back for the next episode of these strategy sessions.